Well, hello everyone, this is Brett, and I know it's been a long time since I've made a video, but I am back, and here, sitting in front of you, is my Samsung Galaxy S4 that I have had for a long time, since like late 2013. And I took the case off of it so we can see the whole thing, but as you can see, it definitely has seen better days, but it still works just fine. But here we have another phone. This is the Samsung Galaxy S7. So 3 generations newer. And today I'm going to do a comparison video between these two phones. We're going to take a look at them very close. And we're going to turn them on. Well, actually, they're already on. But we're going to take a look at them and see which one's better. You could probably guess which one's better, but I'm going to explain that to you. So first of all, a little backstory. The S7 I just bought last month, in fact, and it works just fine. It was in like new condition, and it was also much cheaper than what I would have gotten it for from a contract from a cell provider. But see, as for the S4, you might remember a little video I did a while back of my Straight Talk video for this phone, and I showed you how to set up the S4 with Straight Talk. And back then, that was kind of a more difficult thing to do. But now, Straight Talk now sells S4s, and I think even S5s now you can buy directly from them. But anyway, this is the S4. Like I said, still works just fine. And this is the S7. Now, the S7 I do not have Straight Talk with. This is a Verizon brand phone. This was an AT&T brand phone. And with the S7, I have Verizon's prepaid plan, which is actually pretty cool. It's actually very similar to Straight Talk's plan. You still get unlimited talk, unlimited texting, and 5 gigabytes of high-speed data a month for $50, which is about the same price as Straight Talk's, maybe just $5 more. Straight Talk is $45. But the difference is, though, is that with Verizon, you also get to carry over your unlimited high-speed data that you don't use from month to month. So let's say you only use 3 gigabytes of your high-speed data for the month, and you have 2 left over. Well, with Straight Talk, you would lose that data and just go back to 5 the next month. But with Verizon's prepaid plan, that 2 gigabytes of high-speed data would carry over to the next month, so then you would have 7 gigabytes to use the next month, and so on and so on. So it's actually a pretty good deal, and they've actually just kind of like revamped the pricing from what I was told. So $50 a month plus some taxes and fees, of course, and you get the same unlimited talk and texting and the high-speed data. So it's all pretty cool. So I'm enjoying Verizon's prepaid plan a lot more than Straight Talk. So even though Straight Talk worked okay, and this, of course, like I said, used AT&T, and this used Verizon. And the difference between the two is it's not really that much. They still have, both AT&T and Verizon have pretty good service, and their signals can vary depending on where you're at. In this particular location where I'm at, they recommend AT&T, but Verizon, I believe, has a little bit more better coverage. And I've noticed that when I travel out sometimes, AT&T signal drops out, or it drops from 4G down to E, or just 4G, not LTE. So I'm going to see how Verizon's coverage is on that, and see if it's any different. But anyway, though, let's get to the actual comparison of the phone, shall we? So this is the two phones, side by side. And the S4, the S7, I would say, well, actually, they're pretty similar in thickness. The S4 may actually be just a teeny bit thicker, but it's really, really close. Another big difference is that the S4's speaker is on the back, right here, while the S7 speaker is right down here at the bottom. Now, this speaker may look a little bigger and maybe a little better than this speaker here, but they both sound pretty much the same from what I gather. Though this speaker, to me, does sound louder. The speaker on the S7 to me does sound louder. This one does not sound as loud, but they sound about the same. You know, speakers on cell phones are both, you know, they're kind of tinny, not very good quality, but the S7 speaker does seem to be louder to me. So the back of them, the cameras, the cameras do look quite different. The flash is on this side on the S7. The flash is on the bottom here on the S4. And like I said, the speaker is on the back here on the S4. Above than that, they're about the same. A little bit more. The S7 has a bit more shine to it, a little bit more gloss, and the S4's cover is just a very cheap plastic to me. But it's still, I mean, it's all right. Screen size, the S7 does have a screen that's 1/10 of an inch bigger. The S7 has a 5.1 inch screen. The S4 has a 5.0 inch screen. So not much, but it is just a little bit bigger. And it looks like the S7 might be just a little bit taller than the S4 as well. It's just a little bit taller. And here we can see the different lights and sensors and everything. One thing the S7 does not have that the S4 does have is a IR blaster. So you can use the S4 as a universal TV remote. The S7 you cannot use for that purpose. And from what I've read, from what I've heard, that's actually because some people have been using these phones to like hack into people's garages or cars and actually unlock them or start them up. And that's kind of scary, so I guess I can see why I took that out. But still, it's a pretty cool feature to have if you used it for legit reasons. Alright, so now let's power, let's take both phones out of their standby mode here. And the S7 I have set up to be a little pattern lock there. And you can see I have both phones set up kind of the same. I kind of have the icons a little different, but of course this phone is a little bit more updated. I got a few games on them. We'll play one game just to compare the performance. But overall, both phones are pretty responsive. You know, like both phones here are pretty responsive. This is Instagram. It's pretty cool. They're both pretty smooth. One thing I had trouble getting used to though was different buttons. Like with the S7, you have to press this button right here, and that brings up your list of most recently used apps. Now on the S4 though, you always press and hold down the middle button, and that did it. But with the S7, that's different. If you press down the middle home button on the S7, that brings up this Google little home screen thing, which I have never used and probably will never use. But still, I guess it's cool if you're going to use that. And speaking of that, Android. This says it actually has a little notification here that says Android 7.1.1 update for S7 and S7 Edge is officially coming in January. And that's another point because the S4 still uses Jelly Bean, I think. It still has, this has Android 5.0.1, I believe. And this is, I'm pretty sure, never going to be updated. The S7 right now is currently using, let's see, Android 6.0.1. And Nougat is coming out next month for the S7. So the S7, of course, will be updated to Nougat. The S4, though, of course, will not. I believe the S6 is being updated to Nougat as well, but the S5 and before that are not being updated to Nougat. There might be ways to like hack it and put it on there yourself, but officially, the S4 and S5 are not going to have Nougat, but the S6 and the S7 will be. Now, when you get that will depend on what carrier you have. Verizon, I believe, is usually the last to get the updates, unfortunately, at least from Samsung. So, like I may have to wait a month or so before I get Nougat. But another cool feature that's on the S7 is the home button also has a, the S7 also has a fingerprint scanner. The S6 also had this as well, but the S7's a little better from what I read. When your screen is locked, you can just use your finger and you'll press And see. Yeah, here we go. So you can use your fingerprint to actually unlock the phone. Now sometimes this is a little glitchy, like if your finger is kind of dirty or if it's wet. I've noticed too, if you just washed your hands or something, the phone may not read your fingerprint right, and it'll say no match. I have to do it again and again. So that's kind of a pain, but still, usually when it works fine, you know, it's pretty responsive and unlocks your phone very instantly. You don't have to slide it or anything like that. It's not really particularly that useful, doesn't save that much time, but it is cool to have at least. It's another extra feature. So now, let's quickly play a game here. I have Riptide Gp2. Well, first let's do it on the S4, in fact. I'm going to use Riptide Gp2, which is a pretty cool game by Vector Unit. If you like games like Hydro Thunder, then you'll probably like this game as well. So we're just going to play this a little bit here. Just quickly get into a race here real quick. Let's see. Let's do a local circuit. Last standing. Oh, this is eliminator mode. Alright. Alright. So like most mobile racing games, you just steer with the phone itself. And as you can see here, even on the S4, this is pretty good performance. You know, I'm not noticing any major frame rate issues. I mean, it's still pretty good. And it still looks pretty good as well. You know, this is definitely playable, so I mean, nothing wrong with this at all. You know, so you get the idea. The point there is that, you know, the S4 is still a very capable phone despite its age and despite its price now. You can buy this pretty cheap. But, you know, the S7, of course, is more powerful. I don't know the exact specs offhand, but I do know that the S7 is a more powerful phone. It's got the S4 uses a 1080p screen, while this uses a 1440p screen, so it's also got higher resolution. And if you look very closely, it looks like some text is different. And the color, this screen is also brighter. I'm not sure if that depends on my current settings. But none of these phones are on battery saver or anything like that. And I will say the screen on the S7 does look to be a little brighter, a little more colorful. The colors pop a little more. And some of the text looks like the clock and the icons up here. They look a little bit smaller up here on the S7. But again, this is also a higher resolution screen. But oddly though, the icons, like the icons here on your home screen, they actually look a little bigger to me on the S7 than they do the S4. But anyway though, let's try, we will play Riptide GP2 here on the S7 as well, which will run just as good, I'm sure, if not better. As you can see, that may have loaded a lot faster there for you. So we'll go to career. I haven't played this at all on this version, so we'll just go ahead and just once again just quickly go through it here. This is a regular race, a circuit race, 2 laps. So here you go, once again, still looks pretty good, still performs very well. You know, but you may have noticed some decreased load times and maybe a little difference in sound quality. I'm not sure how that will come across on video. You know, both phones though will definitely suit you well. I say if you're in a very tight budget, the S4 or maybe even the S5 will be a very good phone for you. They're still a very capable phones. But that being said, though, the S7 though is definitely also a very good phone. And of course, I'd expect no less from a $700, Samsung phone. They are very good phones. They're all very good phones. And I've not had any issues with this exploding or overheating or anything like that, so I've had no issues with that. But speaking of the battery, though, the S4's battery, in my experience, has been not very good lately. Of course, I've had this phone for like I said, like 2 or 3 years. So I've been recharging it, over and over and over again. And batteries do eventually lose their charge over time, and they do lose their charge more quickly. And after not using this phone for a while, I noticed that the battery actually went completely dead. So, but that might actually be a problem with the S4. It might just be because the battery is kind of old. And of course, the battery on the S7 is obviously a lot newer, and it's also got a higher capacity, so naturally it's going to be better. But I also noticed that when I do Skype video, like on the S4, like it would drain the battery really fast. But when I use Skype video here on the S7, it lasts much longer. And like I charged this like a few hours ago, and it's still got 91% charge left. But the S4's battery, though, of course, like I said, does not last as well. But again, that may also be, once again, because the battery's a lot older and it's been recharged over and over and over again after all these like 2 or 3 years, and naturally it's going to have more wear on it. Sorry about the jump cut, guys, but there is one last thing I want to talk about, and that is the camera functionality on both phones, which is very important to a lot of people. So first thing is the S4's camera. You can take video in up to 1080p. And you can also take pictures in up to 13 megapixels. These are all the different sizes and resolutions here. You can do 9.6 megapixels. You can do 8 megapixels and 4:3. You can also do 6 megapixel and 2.4 megapixel. And usually I just choose the middle option in 4:3. And in videos, you can do, like I said, up to 1080p. You can also do just standard 720p. And you can also take a 4:3 video in 1440 by 1080, and you can also go all the way down to just 320 by 240, which is basically 240p. It's not very high quality, but also will not take up much space at all. And you can also turn video stabilization on and off, which in my experience hasn't been very useful. But as for the actual pictures themselves, in the preview here, the frame rate can vary sometimes, especially in low light conditions. The frame rate can actually dip very, very low. And if you're taking a video in low light, it can definitely look very muddy and bad. So I do not recommend using the S4 in low light conditions. The camera just isn't very up for it. But if you have decent light, if you have decent outdoor lighting or even indoor lighting, the camera can still do well. They will take pictures just fine, and they look, for the most part, okay and acceptable. But if you're looking for great pictures, it's probably best just to go out and buy an actual digital camera. But the S7's camera, though, on the other hand, is much improved. The S7 can take video in up to 4K, which is pretty cool. And as for just regular still pictures, you can do 12 megapixel. And you can also do 6.2 megapixel and 16 by 9, 9.1 and 3.7 megapixel. And you can also take 1:1 pictures, 9.1 megapixel or 4.7. And this also has an HDR function. So if you have a TV that supports HDR, you can turn that on and off. And in video size, you can also take you can do regular 1080p. You can also take 60 frames per second videos. And you can also do regular VGA, which is 640 by 480. You can also do regular HD, 720. And again, like I said, you can also do up to 4K and also 2560 by 1440p. And one thing to note, though, is that when you have it set in UHD, QHD, or 60 frames per second, 1080p, these three functions here, these three features here, you will not be able to use. You will not be able to use HDR, you will not be able to use video effects, and you will not be able to use the tracking function, which I believe tracks people's faces and stuff like that. That will not work. And also, taking pictures will be unavailable when recording in 60 frames per second mode. And also, video stabilization will be unavailable while recording in UHD 1:1 or VGA resolutions. For the most part, though, no big deal, but still a few features are disabled if you use certain video settings. But as for the actual picture quality themselves, here is a picture of the S4 taken with the S7, and here's a picture of the S7 taken with the S4. So obviously picture quality is a bit different. The S7's picture to me looks brighter, and it does look more colorful and sharper as well. So I do recommend the S7's camera over the S4's. No surprise there, honestly. But yeah, the S4's camera does not do very well in low light. The S7's camera does much better in low light. So overall, the S7 is definitely the better package when it comes to mobile phones compared to the S4. But if you're on a tight budget, though, the S4 does hold up well on its own. It will still play a lot of games just fine. The camera does function, and it does give, passable quality. And it still is a pretty powerful phone, especially for the price you can buy it at today. So anyway, guys, that is my comparison of the two phones, the S4 versus the S7. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you guys next time.